September we had a great month, and our Honda store finished #1 in the world for new Honda sales and #1 in the world for certified sales. And combined, we delivered over 1,000 new Hondas and used Hondas, and it's a pretty good feeling to know that we finished first in the country. Our Acura store also combined new and used, delivered 316 cars, and that put us #1 in the nation. And between the two stores, we delivered over 1,400 cars in the month of August, and we thought that outcome was really pretty special for us. And we've got a dealer, a friend of ours out in California, Norm Reeves, and those guys are great dealers, and anytime we can be competitive with them, I'm happy. But we got them. We got them. And it wouldn't have been possible without embracing the technology. Our new website that merges data with the customer visit to the website is unbelievable. If a customer goes to the website and they're a customer of ours, it already pre-populates all the fields. It knows the customer. And I think those are 3 of the rules of Google, right? Know me better, serve me faster, wow me everywhere. And so when we heard those, we said, hey, how can we do that? And the great thing is we've been able to cut out a lot of the vendors that sit on top of the DMS, that sit between the customer and the data and the transaction, that have disparate objectives there, that are sometimes in conflict with what the dealer and the customer want. So we were able to have a new website that integrates directly with the DMS and pulls the information out. And for the customer, what that means is a better transaction, simpler transaction, cutting out a lot of the nonsense. You know, when you go online and you give information to somebody you're speaking with, you don't want to keep having to fill out forms. You don't want to fill out forms at all. You want that site to know who you are. I just bought some stuff from James Pierce online, and it's so easy. I mean, it's addictive, right? Because I go on and I click, and all my sizes pre-populate. So when I'm looking at a t-shirt, it has my size there. I would actually have to manually change it if it wasn't for me, if it was a gift for somebody else. And then when I go to check out, they make it easy. Hey, it's in our intelligent self-interest to make it easy for people to buy stuff from us. So, you know, we think that that's really helped us to achieve what we've achieved. And the other aspect of it is that we were selling about 7% of our customers pickup and delivery. That's now bumped up to about 18%, which is pretty strong for us now. And what's been great is we're getting the staff used to, I don't care if they come to us or we go to them, it doesn't matter, what's ever best for the customer. And I think that mindset of a Jeff Bezos, you know, to see that mindset on people that are on the front line is we're getting someplace. It's really a good thing to see.
Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Mr. Brian Benstock. Brian, my man, how are you, sir?
I am great, Glenn. It is so great to be here with you, man. I love your intro music. That's some serious stuff there.
Well, it's a dangerous position to be in the United States right now, to be a car dealer. There's a lot of things going on, and so that song is called "What's Up, Danger." Like, bring it, come on, we got this, we can handle this, right?
I like that attitude.
Yeah, man, I love it. And you obviously have been able to lean in. You're still crushing it. You're breaking records. You're putting up incredible numbers. You're staying ahead of the technology. And so I wanted to take this opportunity. I appreciate you sharing this space with us. We've got a group of dealers here that are all obviously in different places all over the country, and we're all kind of dealing with the same different problems, right? That would be the best way to describe it. They're the same problems, a little bit different depending on where you are geographically, but you've been able to prove with your rather small dealership, I must say, Brian Benstock, that you have. You don't cover a whole lot of land out there, but you guys have been able to become #1 in the world. And so I would love for you, if you would, share with the dealers in today's market with all the different things going on, how are you staying nimble and ultimately staying ahead to be able to continue to thrive with all this chaos going on around us?
Glenn, thank you for giving me the opportunity. And I love opportunities like this to talk to fellow dealers, fellow male and female dealers around the country. And, you know, it's amazing what I get out of that and what I can learn from the feedback that we get cross country. This is really like a virtual 20 group, and that's, I think, providing an incredible value. I think you said something that's very important. You talked about being nimble and or agile. And I think dealers, for the most part, have always had to be agile, but more now than ever, right? Right now, let's think of our past 18 months, right? We had a shutdown of many businesses. Many dealers had to too many cars. There was no customers. They couldn't open their doors. So many dealers moved in a direction to unload cars. And then we were able to open up, and demand seemed to be really strong. And dealers were clamoring to get cars. And used car prices initially crashed, and now used car prices are going through the roof. And right now, we then the chip deal comes in. That's an adjunct of COVID. And now we don't have enough cars. Some dealers have zero cars on the ground. And like somebody asked me last month, how many cars did you sell? And my answer was all of them. All of them. And it's
Right.
literally we ended up the month with less than a 1 day supply of cars. I think we had 16 cars on the ground, and two of those were demos, and some of them had way too much equipment on them. We all have those cars, right? That no matter what happens, they're going to stick around. So it's 16 cars, but Honda's been pretty good to us in making sure that we get the cars. The ability now to anticipate what's coming is going to be, you're probably going to see a slowdown in demand. You're going to see an increase in production. That's going to be a normalization of gross profits. So what we're looking at internally is, what did we do to cause the net profit of this store to double over the past year? I mean, that's a big number for us, doubling net profit. Benstock, how much of that were you responsible for? And we're peeling that back, and we can look at some things that we did in terms of making it easier for customers to do business, cutting out some expense per transaction. But the reality is a tremendous portion of that uplift came from those circumstances, right? A reduced inventory, high demand, a lot of stimulus money, and potentially those three things are going to go away, right? We saw $1.7 billion in savings right now accumulated by the American population, public, during COVID. That's being spent. I think the spending bill was just passed, or will be passed, somewhere about another $1 trillion will get injected into the economy. So I think that's going to be very good. And interest rates right now, of course, are at historic lows. What happens when that starts to change? And it will change. And I think these are the questions that we need to ask ourselves. What did we do to improve the profitability of the dealership that we can look forward to retaining as things normalize? What will we do when interest rates start to go up, demand starts to go down, and availability becomes plentiful? What steps can we take? And those are the things that we're asking and working on actively.
Yeah, yeah, great questions to ask for sure. So I would love, you mentioned the Honda's making sure that you're getting cars, and you being an incredibly high volume dealer totally makes sense why that would happen.
No, Glenn, I got to tell you, there has not been preferential treatment. I wish I could
Okay.
tell you that we're getting cars. In fact, I've pointed to some of my colleagues that some other areas in the country are getting cars seemingly a little bit quicker than we are. And I can't imagine any dealer in the nation having less cars than we had. I mean, we had 16, so I guess if somebody had eight, that would be less. But
Right.
probably as a percentage of what they're delivering, it would be a higher day supply. I mean, we were down below a day supply of cars, and this darn 747 requires a lot of fuel to keep in the air. We have a
No
very
doubt.
uh, substantial expense structure, so it was a concern. And I called Honda, and they said we knew July was going to be tough. They didn't tell me quite how tough it was going to be. So I do think some of the smaller dealers may be experiencing some real difficulties and may not have the cars coming in as quickly.
Yeah.
We have to be respectful. If you're the captain of the ship, whether you be a male or a female, you're in charge, and it's your responsibility to respond with ability, right? To contact your friends around the country that might have some cars, because there are pockets in the country where cars are available. It's your responsibility to do what you can in terms of fixed ops and making sure that you're firing on that cylinder. And of course, use cars to make sure that you are actively pursuing getting the right customers' cars. And having those used car inventory. Used cars saved us last month. We had
Yeah.
almost 400 used car deliveries for our Honda store. That's a pretty good number for us, and just about 200 in the Acura store. That's a pretty good number for us in the Acura store, with very respectable grosses.
Right on, right on. So right now we have the chip, the inventory, the COVID, all these things, all at the same time. But on top of that, we're starting to see more and more articles like this. Ford moving towards build to order, away from packed dealer lots, direct to consumer from our manufacturers, our partners, those that are supposed to be helping us move along. We're in the midst of like the craziest time ever, and they're showing record profits, and they're also talking about going to direct to consumer. What are your thoughts on that? How do we protect against that, or what would we do if they start doing that?
A business is like an organism, right? And the organism's strongest urge is the urge to survive. It will do what it needs to survive. And so Ford Motor Company is saying, "Hey, man, we like this, and we want to get into that retail business." Ford's been trying to do this forever, man, and they failed. Direct to consumer that works until they start backing up on Ford's lots, and then they say, "Hey, dealers, help us." The incentive line on my Acura store was minuscule compared to 2 3 years ago. So they're saying, "Hey, we like this. Let's remember, OEMs, you're going to be coming to us when the demand is not there and the cars are backing up, and it's going to be the automobile dealers that can get you out of this. If they knew how to retail cars, they would, but they don't. So they come to us. And right now, we'd all like these circumstances to continue. But what's going to happen when things normalize? What's going to happen is the OEMs are going to start producing cars and more cars and more cars. Every OEM is hoping the other OEMs are not going to produce enough cars so that they can get market share. And we're going to be right back to where we were. The dealers didn't cause the cars to be sitting on the lot. It was overproduction. So let's keep that in perspective. And we need to be very clear with our partners how this partnership works, and make sure that is in fact a partnership. Direct to consumer is a business model that may take the dealers out of it. What are we doing about servicing these vehicles? Ford has had a history of having some difficulties with service, and when these cars start when you got new Broncos sitting on the road broken down, you're gonna need your dealers to come help you get those things back in the shop, fix them back out on the road. Let's not forget that.
Indeed, indeed. In that, you said you think it'll get back to the way it used to be. Do you really think it'll get back to normal? Like, in my perspective, it seems as though they've created a more profitable situation. They don't have to incentivize as much. The stockholders usually guide you always say follow the money, right? And the stockholders can cause these companies to make decisions that maybe aren't in the best interest of the suppliers. And so do you
The
really
first
think
thing
it'll
you
go back to
said
where
is
you'll be able to have all the inventory you want?
the first thing you said was that they created the circumstances. No, they did not. The circumstances created the environment that we're in now. Again, $1.2 trillion in infrastructure, additional stimulus, $1.7 trillion in savings, lowest interest rates in history created this. Okay, and then a shutdown in manufacturing due to circumstances beyond their control, the inability to get these chips. These circumstances created the environment we're in. They're not going to sit back and say, "Hey, this is good. Let's produce less cars. We'll be more profitable," as the other manufacturers are stealing share from them. There's going to be someone at the top saying, "Hey, the reports just came out, and Chrysler's got 2 points in market share on us in this region. Get more cars there. We need to push the cars," but they're not selling. Put incentive. That's their playbook, right? Push the cars, push the cars, push the incentives. That's not our playbook. We want to sell the cars. We'd love for them to produce one less car than the demand, one less car, so we can keep that. But that's a difficult thing to do, and I think we'll see many of the manufacturers go back to the old ways, and it may not happen overnight, but as things slow down, cars will start to build up, back up. Manufacturers aren't going to say, "Let's close down the factories." They're going to continue to produce the cars, and if things continue to back up, they're going to go back to the playbook. Playbook's going to say, "Put an incentive on that, and don't put enough money on it." And they won't put enough money on it, so then they're going to have more cars backing up. Then they're going to put bigger money on it. This is not wishful thinking. This is, I think, how it's going to be. Like I said, we did not get ourselves into these circumstances. Dealers enjoy good margins. We haven't seen this return on gross since as a Honda dealer since the 80s, 84, 85, 86. We were
It's
making
been
really
nice.
substantial money per car. And I reminded a friend of mine, I said, the grosses were about the same. Who said the grosses were about the same in 1984? I said, you're right, but the car cost $13,000, and you're making
Right.
$4,000 on a
Right.
$13,000 car. That's a pretty good ROI. And we're making pretty good grosses now, but the cost of the cars, of course, is higher. Cox Automotive reported a couple of years ago that the price of new cars was getting so high that it was going to slow down sales. Well, that number, the numbers just continues to rise, and it has not slowed down sales. I think at some point there is going to be a falling off of demand when the prices now are north of $50,000 for an
Yeah.
economy car.
It's getting up there. No
It
doubt.
is.
It's getting up there. So, Brian, an old model in the car business, it was, basically if you could get a dealership in a good location, right, that had plenty of traffic driving by, and you could sell 100, 120 cars a month and run a solid service department, make $1 million a year. And, that was a pretty good model. And there are a lot of family owned and operated dealerships across the country that are still kind of on that model. And my question is, do you believe that that type of model is still sustainable in a world where we have the Carvanas, the Teslas, the manufacturer threats of direct to consumer? Is it required that we get these volume numbers up, or do you think it's still possible to run as a little bit smaller average size dealership to say per se?
I think some of the smaller dealers have an advantage over the bigger stores, like a store like the size of Paragon. They've got that low overhead, right? And so if the smaller dealer can use technology to reach out to markets outside of their immediate area, I think that could be a real edge to have the benefits of a low overhead environment with the reach of a Carvana. And no, not national reach, but the ability to find opportunities and to be able to deliver the car directly to that consumer, or the abilities to take back some of the service business that we lost. Let's face it, fully 80% of the service business right now has been lost to the independents. And why is that? Well, it's proximity and convenience. The independents are more of them, so they're all over the place, and that provides a convenient environment for many customers. With the advent of pickup and delivery and Uber type service, we can service cars and take that business back. So one of the areas I would look at your fixed ops and what percentage are the independents taking of our business, and let's get that back. Sometimes we're so focused on the dealer down the block at Billy Bob Motors going after his business or her business. We're not paying attention to the true competitors, those independents that are taking 80% of that service gross away from us. And depending on your store, that could be, you're getting a return on that gross of 70%, 72, 73%. And so we should be looking at that. It's not your competitive Honda dealer, Subaru dealer, and Nissan dealer, but it's those independents. And the same thing is true for used car lots, right? So many more cars are sold by the independents than the dealers out there. So let's take a look at those opportunities. And then, of course, making sure that we're able to reach the right customers at the right time with the right message in a perimeter of our choosing. It's no longer 3 to 5 miles away. It's determined based on our ability to serve the market. And we're continuing to take our circle and spread it slowly to spread it slowly out. Remember, in my particular market, in our market, a 1/4 mile extension on that circle brings in tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people. So we're doing it judiciously. Initially I said, I want it all, right? And I said, show me all the hand raisers. And they have a tool called the DOE, Dealer Opportunity Explorer. And you can have us maintain your market, grow your market, crush your market. And I said, crush my market. And I want to know what, all the hand raisers, and what would it cost me per month to reach them? And they said, you really want to know? I said, yes. They gave me an estimate of 897,000. I went, wait, a year? I said, no, a month. I said, okay, maybe I don't want all of them. Maybe I don't want them. But it speaks volumes to the opportunity that's out there. Imagine if we could use technology, Glenn, to see all the people that are raising their hand saying, I want your car. I want one of the cars that you've got. And search and purchase have a nearly 1-to-1 correlation. So for every 10 people that search for a car, it's 8.9 buy one. For every 10 people that search for a car, 8.9 buy one.
Amazing.
So imagine if you had an understanding of the number of people that were searching for products and services that are on your lot, and if you could connect with them better, a 1% increase in that could substantially increase your business. And I know you know this because you were doing it in Paris, Kentucky. You were selling 10,000 cars a year in with a place with a population of 12 people. And so obviously you found the magic to reach outside of your market. There's a dealer in Kellogg, Idaho, that was an early adopter to the internet, and he's the number one selling, I think, Chrysler dealer or Jeep dealer in the nation. And the population of Kellogg, Idaho was just nothing. But he learned how to be able to service the market. He stocked cars like he was in a metro area. People were
That's right.
searching online. They found him, and he brought the cars to them. So I think this is the great news for the smaller dealer, that you can do that. You can be a little stealthy, machine there. And where's my market? Anywhere I want it to be, anywhere I
That's
can put
right.
out a message, anywhere where I can send a car. And the great thing about our products, unlike an Amazon product, our products on wheels. So it's very easy to ship the car. You just drive it there, or have someone
That's
drive it
right.
there.
That's right. Well, Brian, I appreciate you being with us, and I know you've got some other sessions, and so I'm just going to ask you one last question, and then I'm going to let you go. Everyone always wants to know what's the secret sauce, man. Is there a secret vendor? Is there a secret strategy? Is there a part of your advertising budget? These are my friends here that we're talking to today. This isn't going out nationally. This is just for my friends. Is there any secret formula or a little secret sauce or something that you can give to our friends here today?
Well, I think hard work is really at the core of it. There's no shortcuts. If I'm going to give you the hack is get up early, have a game plan, execute on the plan every day. Certainly, uh, get yourself involved with the Google Dealer Guidebook 1.0, and then version 2.0, and then version 2.5. Have an understanding of those pillars that impact digital search, because it's a monster. Make sure you're involved with YouTube, getting involved with using video to bring your message to your customers in a cost-effective manner. We're able to put our messages in front of in-market shoppers for 2 cents, 2 cents per customer. And these are not random customers. These are not customers that are finding by accident. These are in-market customers. So I think having a better understanding of that. And Glenn, of course, any of your members that want to speak to me directly and have me review what they're doing, I'd be glad to. You know how they can reach me online, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, anywhere. I'd be glad to share with them the resources that we use to help us conquer our market.
That's right, man. Well, I definitely appreciate that, and appreciate you so much, Brian. You, sir, are the man, adding tons of value to the 800% Club. Brother, keep rocking. Stay safe. Stay healthy. We need you. Let's keep rocking and rolling.
Well, we're working on it, buddy. Thank you very much.
So that, of course, was the one and only Mr. Brian Benstock. And when he says you guys and gals can reach out to him with any questions, I suggest that you do that. I really suggest that you do that. He's got it figured out when it comes to his advertising budget, leveraging Google, Facebook, all the different analytics. And what I love most about Brian is, Brian's 61 years old, right? He's 61 years old, and yet he's completely 100% up to date with the technology and the resources that are out there in order to expand our businesses. Now, there are a lot of things that we need to do internally. There's things that we need to do with our cultures. There's things that we need to do when it comes to our inventory. There's things that need to be done on our websites. There's a lot of things that we need to do. And obviously we train and we talk about all of those things. But if we don't put all of the pieces together, we can't see the 800% growth that we're all desiring, right? When I worked at Dan Cummins, one of the great things was Josh Cummins was very much like Brian. He was always completely 100% up to date on the technology that was out there, the resources available, et cetera, et cetera. So I want to make sure that you're diving into that particular area. You see, sometimes we get caught up in doing what we've always done, doing things the way we've always done it. And that ultimately can get us some incremental growth, which you've all experienced, right? It can get us incremental growth. But incremental growth doesn't cut it in the long term. We talked a couple weeks back about gaining momentum, right? Making sure that you're carrying the momentum. We talked about that in the alpha group, about gaining momentum and the 9 different ways that we can do that. And so I want to make sure you understand how important momentum is. And when we have 2% growth, 5% growth, 10% growth, even 15% growth, we're still at risk and at danger of losing momentum. We want to start seeing 25% growth, 30% growth year over year, 35%, 40%, 50%. Why? Because we can. If we could do it in Paris, Kentucky, you can do it anywhere, no matter where you're at. So as we continue to go through training, I think it's really important that I point out that I am going to bring you all of that I have. And I will continue to research, and I will continue to study, and I will continue to be your greatest asset here in 800% Club. But I don't know it all. And I am comfortable, 100% comfortable, saying, hey, Brian, we need help. There's certain areas and aspects of our dealerships that we have to lean in, really get involved in order to get that trajectory to start to skyrocket. So for those of you that have been with me, for a while now, you've seen some great gains, and that's awesome. I appreciate the hard work and the energy that you've put towards what you're building. But I want you to start unlocking. I want you to start rethinking what's possible. We are in the greatest contraction in the history of our industry. We are also in the largest, most global, by far, most global impact event that any of us have ever experienced in our lifetimes. These contractions and these global events create massive opportunity. But it doesn't work if we just go back to the way that it was. You see, Brian mentioned that he thinks the manufacturers will ultimately go back and open their playbooks and go back to the way that it was. I'm not sure I agree with that sentiment. However, agree or not agree, what I do know is that it is the tendency of humans to fall back to what we know. It is the tendency of humans, no matter what the experience, to ultimately, when we catch our breath on the other side, to seek areas of comfort versus seeking areas of challenge and opportunity. And so that's ultimately the message I want to share with you today. And I am so thankful Brian came in and shared his wisdom with us. But the biggest message that I want for you today is lean in on those areas that are scary, that are confusing, those areas that are really, really uncomfortable. We're going to have to lean in on those to really start to see some substantial leaps and bounds. We went from, 4,200, back it down, 26. I guess we went from like 1,200, just over 1,200 cars a year to 26. And then we went from 26 to 42. And then we went from 42 to 6. And from 6,000 to 7,500. And from 7,500 to 10,000. Right? Those are huge, huge, huge leaps year over year, and you can do the same thing. You can. I believe in you. You have the tools. Leverage what we have. Utilize each other. Be in constant communication with the other dealers that are in 800% Club. Vet your vendors. Is this working? Is this not working? What are you using? Why is it working? How can we apply that? Have those conversations, and especially with a guy like Brian. When it comes to the tech side, some of the stuff he's talking, I'm like, bro, that's Chinese to me. But I don't own a dealership. I'm not the one who's going to have to go in there and set up my search and optimize my search and optimize my ads. I don't have to do that. However, you, on the other hand, you do. You have a responsibility. Now, I'm not saying you have to become the expert, but you have to know enough to be able to hold someone else accountable in those areas to make sure that it gets done. Listen, I'll see you guys on the and gals. I'll see you guys and gals in our Q&A session on Tuesday and or Wednesday. We did share this particular class with both groups, Alpha and Bravo, because it is Brian. I think he had so much value, so we made sure to share it across the board. So whether you're going to come see me, and a reminder on that, if you're in Alpha, you're welcome to come Tuesday and Wednesday, Tuesday or Wednesday, whichever way you want to come to the live sessions. You're totally 100% able to do that. For the Bravo group, those of you that have been with us, a short amount of time, I guess at this point, 5 weeks, you'll be on Wednesdays at 2 o'clock. That's when we meet up. Now, I know you get the trainings ahead of time, but make those sessions a priority. Put them on your calendar, block it off. Don't let anything else get in the way from those 2 o'clock sessions, because that's where we can really dive into your individual dealership, and we can really make sure to expand it, make sure to grow it, make sure you have clarity on the actions that we're supposed to take. So please make those a priority, and I'll see you later this week.